This episode is made possible by U.S. Bank and Brex, the AI-powered spend platform.
Hello, this is Zach Johnson, CFO of Cribble, and you are listening to the CFO Thought Leader podcast.
This is episode 1063.
The name of the game, in startup life is being able to pivot quickly and make decisions with often imperfect information. You don't have the luxury of sitting around and saying, let me wait for all the data to come in. But when you do that, when you're moving that quickly, it's hard for teams, especially at a fast growing company, to always be aligned. And you might have one team thinking, this was what we were working on and this is where we should focus. And turns out, that's not what the sales team's thinking. I'm just using an example here. And so go out there, sit with the teams, understand what they do day in and day out, and not to the most granular level, but certainly in a way that makes you effective.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's episode, we speak to Eugene Wong, CFO of Clara Analytics. Shortly after Eugene Wong exited the banking world to advance into a senior operations role, that he realized the importance of having a holistic view. At one meeting, he uncovered a disconnect between product and sales teams that was undermining a strategic initiative. By stepping in and aligning priorities, he tells us he became a de facto quarterback, connecting perspectives and clarifying responsibilities. You'll hear that story and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this. Are you tired of manual, fragmented, and time-consuming expense management processes? Then the U.S. Bank Commercial Rewards Card might be right for your business. More than just a card, it's an all-in-one card, expense, and travel management solution that replaces outdated expense management methods with a single intuitive platform. Specifically designed to scale with your growing business, it provides the control and real-time insights into spend that you need. It integrates with your existing tools, lets you set custom spend policies, captures all expenses automatically, and liability is kept at the corporate level. Employees can even book travel right in the platform. You also get to choose your rewards, either points or rebates, all while saving money with no annual fee. So why wait? Manage your cash flow better and streamline your business operations today with the U.S. Bank Commercial Rewards Card. Visit usbank.com/CFO to learn more. Hello, we're speaking with Eugene Wong, CFO of Clara Analytics. Eugene, welcome.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, not at all. Hey, Eugene, take us back. What were those experiences you feel prepared you to become a finance leader? What comes to mind?
My first job out of college was I worked at a bank known as Silicon Valley Bank, very much within the startup and VC ecosystem. The team that I was on, the role that I played there was the leverage finance team. And so what that really means in a nutshell is that we partnered with private equity firms that were doing leverage buyouts of, in this case, software and SaaS companies. And as a part of what we did, we would partner with them and provide the debt capital so that those PE firms could make the acquisitions of their companies. So in my capacity on that team, I spent a lot of time going to management meetings of various SaaS companies that, our private equity sponsors were looking to potentially acquire. It was in that forum and in that experience, kind of sitting in front of these management teams, which consist of founders, CEO, CTOs, CFOs. That was where I really got an exposure to hearing management teams, founders, CFOs, CTOs really talk about how they're all working together to build a singular platform, to grow the company, to scale the company, and really, achieve their mission. And so I would say it was in that experience of really getting close to management teams, working with them, hearing them talk very passionately about what they do and why they do it. That was where I got the bug, Jack. And I said to myself, it would be super cool to be on the other side of that table one day, to really be a part of a single company, of a single mission, working together with other passionate folks towards, growing the company and serving our customers. So I don't know that was a skill set per se that armed me, but it was definitely what piqued, my interest and curiosity in one day making that switch from being a, let's just say banker / financial professional to being a financial operator. And in the context of my role at SVB on the leverage finance team, learned a lot about financial analysis, understanding how the numbers behind a company can explain their journey, can explain their story, and how to, interpret the language of numbers and what that implies for how the company's performing today and where things will get tomorrow. It was also in that role that I got a ton of exposure to a variety of SaaS business models, ranging from vertical SaaS, horizontal SaaS, you name it. And so I would say that role, I think, was a great starting point for me in my professional journey to really have a good holistic view on growth stage companies, VC-backed companies, and, the challenges and the opportunities that they face. So that was my first role out of school, and I think it did jive well for kind of where I'm at today.
You go back for an MBA, and you come out the other side of your MBA, and you join Goldman Sachs for a stint. So you have Silicon Valley Bank. You're there about roughly 4 years, maybe, and then you go back for your MBA. What are you thinking at that place in time? And again, we're trying to help career builders out there. Not everyone knows exactly where they're headed way back in time, but you go back. What are you thinking that MBA will do for you? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, it's a great question, and frankly, I think it's a question a lot of folks a few years out of school ask themselves as they're trying to think through their professional journey and where it might take them. For me, coming out of undergrad, I knew I liked numbers. I liked economics. I liked business. I liked the concept of understanding how a group of people collaborate together to, grow a business and scale it. And so, for me, starting my career as a banker, it afforded me a lot of opportunities. It afforded me, I think it really grew a lot of transferable skill sets. So for me, as I was 4 years into my career, I really asked myself, pros and cons of an MBA. I think we all know MBA it's a big decision. It's quite expensive. There's the opportunity cost of, in my case, I went for 2 years full time, so I wasn't working outside of internships in the middle of the summer, in the middle between year 1 and year 2. So it's a big financial commitment, both in terms of the cost of attending and then the opportunity cost of not working for a couple of years. And so, but at the same time, I knew what I wanted to do, especially coming from a liberal arts background in undergrad. There's a lot of business specific classes that, you don't necessarily have access to. There's a lot of pros, I think, and positives to a liberal arts education in terms of teaching you how to think, how to be creative, how to problem solve. But there's probably some, what I'll call hard skills that you potentially miss out on, things like accounting and corporate finance. And more important than adding those skills, I knew I wanted to go to a robust program where the alumni network would be quite robust, where I would be challenged by my fellow students and be able to build a network of folks that, in the future, could be mutually beneficial, right? And so for me, business school was really an opportunity to learn some skills, that were not maybe readily available in from a liberal arts perspective in my undergrad. It was to be able to tap into a very healthy alumni network, build my own network of professionals roughly my age and in the same part of the journey. But more importantly, I think all of that is a way of saying it afforded me some degree of flexibility. And so I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. To your point, I think, a lot of 26-year-olds would be lying to you if they said they did know exactly what they wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to be in the context of business. I knew that at some point I probably do want to go join an operating platform. As I was saying earlier, that it was attending those management meetings that really did pique my interest in one day becoming an operator. But I knew that there was still learnings of what I needed coming out of MBA. And so frankly, to be honest with you, early in my first year at MBA, I took a look at everything, management consulting. I was doing the case studies to maybe go join a management, do an internship at a management, a consulting firm. I looked at investment banking. Obviously, I looked at corporate development, corporate strategy gigs at larger, Fortune 500 companies. And ultimately I did land on the Goldman Sachs internship, which then, I leveraged into a full-time opportunity coming out of the MBA program. And for me, number one, Goldman Sachs, obviously a very prestigious name and certainly a lot of very intellectual, well-rounded, experienced folks that I could learn from. But for me, it was really taking my kind of lower mid-market SaaS leverage finance financial repertoire and experience and expanding that onto working with public companies, large M&A opportunities, IPOs, learn more about capital markets, understand, how folks grow their company at that level. And so that was really the impetus for me. I also felt, and I still believe, that investment banking, if approached with the right light and mentality, can arm you with a lot of skill sets and experiences that can ultimately be transferable to, becoming an operator, becoming an investor, becoming a consultant. And so for me, similar to the reason I went to MBA, I felt that if I went to Goldman, and who knows, I thought to myself, I might actually end up liking this and doing it as a career if I'm able to do it successfully and if I enjoy it to that point. So I felt there was a lot of flexibility and optionality in honing my skill sets at Goldman.
Eugene, just to understand better, and I'm going to be a little more forthcoming with you went to Yale School of Management. I want to mention that because I'm curious about the options that you had of your classmates when you get the opportunity to be the summer associate at Goldman. 9 out of 10 of your classmates would take it if there are that many who were offered it. I'm just trying to say that's something you don't turn down very often. And seriously, if McKinsey and Company offered you a similar position, not investment banking, management consulting, different world, was it anywhere near as attractive to you? So there's 2 questions there. And what I want you to do is say, no, Jack, that's not the way it works. Here's what transpired.
Yeah, no, if I understand your question, so I'll start with your first question. I think the recruiting process can be pretty rigorous, both for management consulting at the MBA level and investment banking. And so, you don't have a lot of folks kind of just applying for the sake of applying. If you're going to go through with the process and really, take it seriously, and it's something you really could see yourself doing for the summer, there's quite a level of commitment you have to make from a networking perspective, practicing cases and answering questions and getting yourself up to speed on recent transactions and capital markets occurrences. And so I would say if folks have made that decision in their mind to pursue an investment banking summer internship with that level of earnest and conviction, look, I can't comment on how other people weigh different opportunities and names, but I think it is fair to say, throughout the years, obviously, some, periods are different than others, but by and large, Goldman is a wonderful platform, for investment banking and, Wall Street related activities. And so, I guess to answer your question, yeah, it was a well sought after logo. It was, generally something everybody that was on the investment banking track would want to pursue and hopefully land.
All right. Well, you're at Goldman for a number of years, and you do return to Silicon Valley Bank in a very senior role. And it's only, if you look on paper, it seems like only 3 or 4 years beyond where from the time you left, I suppose. And then you move into industry. Is that right? So entrepreneurial itch, what operations itch? What is it that brings you finally into industry?
Yeah. So, industry / being an operator for a single company. I bring that back to the first job that I had. So it really was, and obviously this is way before COVID. So all these meetings are in person, and you're sitting in front of them for 4, 5, 6 hours. There might be a lunch or a dinner, and you're listening to executives, founders, CFOs, CTOs just talk about what they do, why they do it, how they think about setting strategic goals, how they think about growing the company from an employee perspective, from a revenue perspective, from a customer account perspective, the new products and services they're putting out, how they think about the strategic landscape. To me, it was, actually being on the playing field is how I thought about it. And certainly when you're in the capacity of being an advisor or a lender, you're in the ecosystem, but you're not the actual operator. And that bug, just hearing these people talk about what they do every day and the passion in their voice. And frankly, I'm the kind of person where I don't mind, I think I gravitate more towards being part of a single team, working towards a single goal, as opposed to a more fleeting transaction oriented business model, which, don't get me wrong, has its positives for sure, getting exposed to a lot of different things in a short time frame. And so it was all of the above. I knew that if given the right opportunity, would like to go join a singular company, a single platform, a single mission. And it was with that first company. I'm on my third operating company now. It was that first company you alluded to, Forward Financing, where I was given that opportunity to be at the executive level as a financial executive of a growth stage company.
And interestingly, it's a realm you're somewhat familiar with, for sure, I would think. You're providing reliable working capital to small and mid-sized firms and what have you. So it's familiar. You leave to step into a CFO role, but you were there 4 years and then you step into a CFO role. Is that right?
Yeah. So for the 4 years at the first company, Forward Financing, I effectively served as the executive, whatever you want to call it, finance executive, reporting directly to the
head of
CEO.
finance. Yeah.
Yeah, CEO, founder, and we had a lot of growth during that time. It was an amazing 4-year journey for me. My first stint as an operator, in an entrepreneurial fashion. We grew the company significantly, both from a revenue perspective, client count perspective, employee perspective. I was in charge of all things strategy, finance, business operations. We had a subsidiary, an offshore subsidiary that reported up to me, that handled all of our business process outsourcing. So I really got a holistic mix of all things traditional CFO, which obviously table stakes, the accounting and the infrastructure, but really being able to become a strategic operator. And people ask me, kind of what did you do in your capacity there, right? How would you describe what your role is? And I like to say I view myself as kind of an internal consultant that any of the other executives can kind of leverage so that we can make the best decisions anytime we need to make a decision that would impact the business, or at least have a framework where the decision we're making maximizes the chance of a positive outcome and frankly mitigates what might happen in a negative outcome. And so it was a great experience. Again, not CFO in title, but certainly all the roles and responsibilities, I think, prepared me well for a CFO functionality. And then it was after those 4 years that I went and joined the second company in my journey, a company known as HomeTap, which is a Boston-based growth equity, VC-backed fintech platform.
Wow. Now, with these companies along the way, are you raising money, or what's their capital structure?
Yeah, that's always, with growth stage companies, depending on where they are, there's no single rule of thumb. But in the case of my first company, we were a privately held company. And what I mean by that is we actually didn't have any, necessarily institutional equity capital. It was very much closely held. That being said, we had other capital infusions as we grew the business, but we were very fortunate that we were able to very quickly from when I joined achieve a state of pretty robust, decent, robust cash flow profitability. So certainly, depending on where you are in your journey of being self-sustaining, how fast you want to grow, you may or may not have to raise capital. But certainly at HomeTap, the second business I was at, our business model was one where we were kind of like a fintech platform that extended capital to homeowners, but on the other side, we really looked like an asset manager, an alternative asset manager. So we raised a lot of capital from institutional investors, ranging from credit funds to hedge funds to private equity firms, and we would pool all of that, not that different from any investment manager. We would pool all of that in different investment vehicles and then manage that capital on their behalf by making investments into individual homes across America. So certainly in my prior role, capital raising was, very much a significant part of my pie chart, so to speak.
All right. Well, we'll probably have a few more career-related questions for you a little later. But right now, why don't we find out about Clara Analytics, and we'll come back and ask you about the opportunity that you saw. But first, tell us about Clara. What does this company do? What are its offerings today?
Yeah, super exciting. So Clara Analytics, we were founded in 2017. We are a growth stage Series C AI SaaS company. Our customers include large insurance carriers, and down market insurance carriers, as well as self-insured companies. So companies who have foregone third party, insurance, solutions and are kind of self-funding themselves. Our AI solutions that we offer are really focused around casualty lines of business. So that means workers' compensation, general liability. And what we're really offering are AI predictive insights for the claims adjusters and managerial staff and at the executive level, so that claims adjusters can do their jobs more efficiently, more effectively, which optimizes the claims outcome journey for everyone in the ecosystem. Our solution, in the solutions that we offer, we're not replacing the human. So we really are more augmented intelligence. Think of us as a co-pilot, like a GPS system, so to speak. We don't replace the human judgment. We don't replace the critical thinking, but we are a very trusted sidekick, if you will, in the software that can help claims adjusters basically optimize their time and their day more efficiently. We typically see a 5 to 10x ROI. Our customers will see a 5 to 10x ROI on their investment in partnering in buying our solutions within the first year. So it's very much an impactful, tangible solution that really delivers our customers a real ROI. We're a fast growth company, and very proud of our people and everything that we've built. Very proud of the value we've been able to deliver to our customers so far.
Could you give us a sense of the customer mix? Is it, are these very large enterprise customers, or is it medium size?
There's a mix. It's a good mix. It does range from, we do have some of the top 25 insurance carriers are in our logos, but also, very much quote unquote down market folks that, have less premiums written, less losses. So our solution is really capable of kind of serving that wide span of, at least from a size perspective. And then to your point, there's also companies that will self-insure, meaning they've put the onus on themselves as it relates to workers' comp or general liability for them to kind of take the brunt of, and so in terms of those corporations, again, can really range in size from large self-insured companies, down to folks that might self-insure, but, be a multi-state grocery store or something along those lines.
So you stepped into the role just this past summer, wondering what, your chapter you're currently opening? How do you look at this business, and where is it along the growth trajectory?
Yeah, I think like a lot of, so first and foremost, yeah, I joined, I guess I just celebrated my 4-month anniversary. So, time flies. It also feels like I've been here a long time. By and large, the core, let's just say the core financial and accounting infrastructure was already in place. And so, not a whole lot, that I needed to do there, right? We're not a 10-person Series A seed company. So there is, depending, any growth stage company can still run the gamut in terms of maturity and sophistication. So very much kind of by and large, the core functions were in place and kind of humming along. And, that's what I call like the keep the lights on part of my job. I think you hear a lot about the concept, especially at fast growing companies that are earlier stage. You hear a lot about the concept of the strategic CFO and what it means to be a strategic CFO. And I really do, view myself as kind of trying to serve that role for the company. And so, anytime a company is growing extremely fast, any company, but particularly ones that are growing fast, the landscape is shifting quickly. You're moving fast. You're trying to bring on customers. You're trying to add people. And, there's a lot of decisions you have to make in real time. It's a very dynamic and fluid, landscape. I think any growth stage company operator would tell you that it's chaotic, but it's, hopefully controlled chaos to achieve a positive outcome. And so anytime you're making a decision to do something or to pursue something or to invest money somewhere, but definitionally speaking, you are making a decision on how to allocate a scarce resource, whether that resource is time or money. It all comes back. It's by pursuing one thing, you're not pursuing something else, right? You've committed a resource to a particular endeavor. And so at the end of the day, I say my job is trying to partner with everyone to make those bets, so to speak. Anytime you're allocating a resource somewhere, you're clearly betting there and not somewhere else, or you've delayed the ability to pursue something else. So how do we have a framework where we can truly understand the trade-offs, where we can truly understand the rationale behind why we made that decision, and what are we looking for when we make that decision for us to continue versus pivot? And so it's very much a operational strategic thought partner across all facets of the organization, whether it's sales and marketing, whether it's tech and product, whether it's HR, whether it's legal, and being able to put a quantitative framework and see the full picture, because one of the things that I really try hard to do is to have a sense of what's going on across the org. I think it's really critical to do that, and to be able to be successful in my role as a strategic operator. I got to understand what everybody's kind of doing to a certain degree, right? And so I would say that's really been what I've been focused on the last 4 months is, the table stakes and the core function, that's in a pretty good spot. So that allows me to elevate myself and be able to serve in that strategic a capacity, which is super important from my perspective.
Can you tell us something about your lines of sight into the business and the types of metrics that you're watching closely these days? I would think it's related to the customer renewals, looking at the adoption rates, attrition. What is it that you're looking at?
Yeah, I don't think it's probably a lot of commonalities and it's probably not dissimilar from what other SaaS CFOs look like. You have your metrics, a lot of which you just alluded to, retention, the ability to upsell, customer acquisition costs, what's our return on the marketing spend, and our sales folks, how are our tech folks doing, relative to the deadlines they've set. So that's probably more of a qualitative one as opposed to a quantitative metric. But it's all of the above of what you said: revenue growth, margin expansion. So I would say it's probably, nothing earth shattering there, nothing, super novel, but certainly, and you want to be thoughtful, right? I've learned that, not having any KPIs can be as bad as having too many KPIs and having that information overload. So really kind of depending on each department and depending on, the initiative at hand, really having a good set of 3 to 5 metrics that can be your first layer. And then obviously you can double click on any of those 3 to 5 metrics, and there may be 3 to 5 more metrics underneath that had led to that overarching metric. So it's creating the ability to I think synthesize and digest information in an efficient way and not, strike that balance between information overload and complete lack of information.
Is there maybe a number or metric that you have sought to raise the profile of? And again, I know you haven't been there all that long, but you have a point of comparison from your other businesses you were involved with, and it might surprise you in some way. The organization just doesn't pay as close attention to a particular metric as you think it should be, or maybe it's just a part of the organization or a functional area.
Look, it's a great question. Again, I wouldn't say there's any one thing that, it certainly wasn't like I got here and something was majorly deficient or missing. As with anything, I'm just trying to refine and enhance and improve upon, the KPIs and the analysis we're already doing. One area that I think is important for a lot of businesses, and it's not always easy because, things are shifting, you're moving, you're changing your processes, you're making them better, you're hopefully making them more scalable. So the framework might change over time. But one thing I have focused on, which I think is helpful and is important to understand, is the cost of your various products. So if you have, 4 or 5 products, really being able to understand what does each one cost? What does it cost to implement? What does it cost to, so I guess I would characterize that as segmentation, really being able to segment and have a story, behind how different services or different products or different teams, what their cost structures might be. And I think all of that is important because number one, it allows you to be more thoughtful in your pricing. It allows you to be more thoughtful about, where your bottlenecks are, where you might be constrained, where you might want to invest more because you've seen the efficiencies and the solid, scale there. And so, I think really understanding your cost structure across, not only across the organization, but across segments can really arm you with a lot of, knowledge of how to execute on other areas as well.
Up front, you shared with us how AI is an important part of the offering already today. It's not something that's happening now. It's something that it seems like from the company's origins, it was a big part of the strategic inner strength that it was building into the product. But can you tell us, how AI sets this organization or this company's offerings apart today? Is there something that they're up to that others just haven't gotten to yet, or how would you characterize it?
Yeah, so just to be clear, AI is very much part and parcel to what we do. Our solution is at its core an AI based solution. So we are essentially ingesting on a daily. So our product set I would put into 2 categories. We've got, and they work together in a holistic platform. On one end, you have what I'll call claims intelligence solutions. So this is what I was saying earlier, claims adjuster as they're working throughout the day, going through their caseload, trying to figure out which ones to prioritize. We will have alerts and guidance along the way that helps them make their decisions, right there beside them, like a co-pilot, so to speak. The other side of our platform is what I'll call document intelligence. So this is, with insurance carriers and self-funded folks, claims adjusters are often going through hundreds of pages of documents that come in, medical records, medical summaries, things of that nature. So the document intelligence tool that we offer allows very quickly for those pages to be ingested, for the relevant data points to be extracted and then summarized in a way that the adjuster can use. So, the name of the game is AI. We're using AI on the document intelligence side for the extraction, for the ability to kind of interpret what's being said and net it down in a way that saves the adjuster a boatload of time. On the claims intelligence side, we are ingesting data from our clients on a daily basis so that we can take, those hundreds and hundreds of data points that they have and be able to, model them in a data science model and provide outputs that can alert them on how to, most efficiently handle, their workflow. So AI was very much a part of us when we were founded, when we were born. And it obviously, AI has only continued to become much more robust in recent years. And we continue to stay at the forefront of that so that our models are incorporating the latest and greatest so that we can deliver the highest value to our clients.
What about your finance function? Have you adopted AI, and is it contributing to how the finance function operates?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, probably not dissimilar from a lot of companies. I would characterize, so I'm going to put aside AI in our product, right? And then talk more about AI usage, from a company perspective, which, would be relevant to any company across any industry. I would say we're still in the early innings of that. And by and large, the way we're doing it is, as you know, a lot of third-party vendor tools are starting to layer on AI functionality. So just something that probably isn't that sexy, but, in the finance world, the expense reimbursement process, the expense approval, the AP, having that, and again, not something we've built, but something that we're going to start, that our third-party AP vendor has embedded within their system, having that be able to make my team's job a lot easier for expense input. They can scan a receipt and automatically put all the relevant points, which saves not only the employee's time, but my finance team's time to audit and approve it. And so things like that, but I would very much call that at the surface level, recording, with everybody's consent, recording internal meetings so that can be transcribed with next steps and open items, using it to maybe enhance our marketing material. So probably a lot of the similar use cases that I'm sure you've heard, from folks kind of, across the ecosystem.
Well, that's great. We're going to move to our finance strategic moment question. And again, this might have happened anytime during the course of your career, but we're looking for just one moment, an aha moment, perhaps a moment of insight that you experienced along the way. What comes to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Yeah, I'd probably go back to within the first 6 months of me moving from the financial advisory investment banking side of the house to being an operator, a growth stage operator. And again, you go back to hearing everybody say strategic finance, strategic CFO. And to me, I kind of understood what that meant. And, there's these grand visions of, orchestrating some large acquisition or something. But I think the thing that occurred to me within a couple months of my job, this was my aha moment that made me realize it's actually, in a lot of ways, a lot simpler than that. But it really highlighted for me the role that a strategic finance executive can play. And in this case, similar story. It was a fast growing company. We were hiring like crazy. We were growing revenue like crazy. And, everybody's moving 1 million miles a minute, right? And everybody's, they've got their company goals, but they've got their department goals, their team goals, and priorities shift, right? Something that was the case a month ago might not be the case because of new information that has come in. Our competitors doing something different. Our customers are asking for something different. So the name of the game, in startup life is being able to pivot quickly and make decisions with often imperfect information. You don't have the luxury of sitting around and saying, let me wait for all the data to come in. But when you do that, when you're moving that quickly, it's hard for teams, especially at a fast growing company, to always be aligned. And you might have one team thinking, this was what we were working on and this is where we should focus. And turns out, that's not what the sales team's thinking. I'm just using an example here. And so for me, when I started, the advice that was given to me, which was very helpful, was, hey, strategic finance at a growth stage company, it doesn't live behind a spreadsheet. It doesn't live behind a computer monitor. That's just the tool you use to lead the business. Go out there, sit with the teams, understand what they do day in and day out, and not to the most granular level, but certainly in a way that makes you effective. Form that holistic view as an operator. What does the sales team do? What does the marketing team do? What does the ops team do? What does the tech team do? And I did that. I took that to heart, and it was super exciting. I'm a genuinely, I'm curious about what people do. I take an interest in how things work. That's just kind of how my brain's wired. So it was enjoyable for me. It wasn't a burden. And so I do that for the first couple months, and I put that into place, and I start meeting with everybody. I get this holistic view, so to speak. And I remember I'm sitting in a meeting with the tech and the engineering team, and I'm hearing them talk about, what they're focused on and deprioritizing something to work on something else. And it was that moment that I realized, wait a second, that's actually not what the other teams are thinking they're working on, because in that other meeting, we had actually talked about, doing something else. Right. And the exact examples, I don't remember, and it's not really relevant to the conversation. The point being, it was that in that meeting, hearing the potential disconnect between two organizations, both of which were functioning very well, by the way. But in the daily hoopla of trying to grow and scale a business, that wire was missed. And it was because I was able to occupy that, I don't mean to use a football analogy, but that kind of quarterback position and see it all. I was able to say, hold on a second. I think we need to have a sidebar between you and this other team, because I'm hearing something different. I think we might be going in another direction. And so that was the moment where I said, oh, I get it. Finance can really be that quarterback position. And again, it's not like the most amazing story in the world, but it is, I think it is very indicative and illustrative of that role that a strategic finance individual can play. And from there on, made it a point to get the key stakeholders together on a frequent basis so that things like this are not missed. And I'm not the one that has to be there to kind of tie it all together. So that was just it was amazing for me to see that, having a team that can really seek to understand what's going on across the business, how it ties back to the numbers, how it ties back to financial discipline, and being able to do that in a way with finesse and with tact, how to kind of be that strategic operator that can really benefit all parts of the organization.
Have you heard about Brex? It's the world's smartest corporate card. Finance leaders love it because it's got powerful controls and rewards that help them make every dollar count. Here's why Brex cards are so smart. You can embed your expense policy inside the card. This lets you control employee spending before it even happens. Brex cards also automate manual expense, tasks like receipts, memos, and reviews. So you're freed to focus on optimizing your company finances. Over 25,000 companies take every dollar further with Brex. Join them at brex.com/grow. You were sort of the head of finance at that first operator's role you were just discussing. But when you finally step into the CFO role, you have the C-suite responsibilities. There must have been something that changed. There must have been some aspect of it that surprised you, or, is that part of being in the C-suite as well? I mean, what changed there? And is there something that was unexpected?
Yeah, it's something I've thought a lot about, and kind of, in my learnings, if I could do it differently, if I could advise myself, what would it be? I think the thing that I've realized is really important is, again, I can only speak from my experiences at growth stage and startups. I'm sure if you were talking to a Fortune 500 or larger corporate, CFO, his or her answers may differ, but at least at a startup in a growth stage environment, even if you're a C-suite, which, has this, like a shiny light about it, but you're very much a player coach. So it's unavoidable that you're going to have your sleeves rolled up. You're going to be in the Excel spreadsheets, in meetings, getting into the details to a certain degree. You have to be a doer. At startups, you don't have the luxury of not doing. Number one, you probably don't have a huge team. And number two, it's just a part of the entrepreneurial spirit of building something together. However, that being said, you're also an executive leader. You need to make sure you find the time and the space and the energy to think longer term, to think about the strategic picture, to not to use a common used metaphor, but like you got to see, you can't get lost, in the tree, lose the forest through the trees. Right. And so what I learned is that unless you intentionally find that time, call it 15 at the very least, 15 to 20% of your time to not just be a doer, but really reserve that time to think strategically, to pull your head out of the sand and make sure you're tying it all back to the big picture. And the problem is if you don't allocate that time for yourself, our energy is finite. Our mind share and what we can do, our brain power, at least for me, is finite. And so at the end of the day, if all you've been doing is in the weeds, being a player, so to speak, you're not going to have fuel in the tank to be able to do justice to that, frankly, more important part. And so for me, I think the advice to myself would be, hey, always remember, and if you can't find the time, then there's a problem. You got to find a better way to scale. You got to build your team, but really allocate, hopefully at least 15, 20, ideally 25 to 33% of your time where you can be working on those bigger strategic items.
Okay. We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little bit on the personal side with us. Eugene, is there something perhaps your colleagues don't know about you? You've only been there 4 months, as you described. Anything they from past, something from your past, a pursuit you went, a interest you have, anything?
No, I mean, I'm not that interesting of a guy. I would say, I think some people know this about me, but not, maybe not. I'm a first generation American. So both my folks, they were born in China. They grew up in China during a tough time in China. And, for your history buffs, you can read about all that stuff. But, their childhood, their teenage years, their 20s, they went through a lot of hardships and for them to, I've immigrated here to America and, my brothers and I, we grew up in a suburb of Boston, but, so very grateful to be able to grow up there. But it was, it was subsidized housing. It was low income government housing. And so for me, just a lot of gratitude from to my parents for, everything they've done so that I could be, have the opportunities that I've had. But, I don't know that a lot of people know that about me, but that is something that I think has really, contributed to how I think about things, my mentality, my work ethic. And so very much grateful for, the opportunities that have been afforded to me.
And you stuck with Boston. You weren't, Silicon Valley smitten. You weren't, it's always been, the Boston is the geography you largely built your career. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, give or take. I was down in, New York for a couple of years. But no, I'm a Northeast boy at heart, big, Red Sox and Patriots fan. I like the Northeast, my family's here, friends. But I hate the cold weather, but somehow I've found a way to stick within a 200-mile radius of the Boston area.
What about, is there a book or a resource you'd recommend, to us out there? Something doesn't have to be a business book even. It might be something you enjoyed or escaped with. Anything come to mind?
I recently read, a book that was recommended to me. It's called Extreme Ownership. Which is written by, the names escape me. It's two Navy SEALs. And essentially it's a lot of anecdotes and stories and philosophies from, their time on the battlefield. But frankly, what these two retired Navy SEALs do now is they run an executive coaching organization. And what's eye-opening is that there are a lot of parallels, but between how you would lead in a military fashion with the business world, and starting with that ability to take ownership of what you do, and all things good, bad, indifferent, and how you empower the folks underneath you to make decisions for themselves. So I really enjoyed it. Obviously, not the military and business, very different, but certainly a lot of the concepts I think I found to be helpful to just kind of think about.
Great selection. We've had a few recent mentions of it, so there's something happening here. It's surfacing in the podcast realm. But thank you for that. We are up to our final question, where we'll ask you to look forward finally. And what we'd like to know are your priorities as a CFO for the coming 12 months. What would those be?
Yeah. I would say they're probably not that different than what I've been trying to do. At the end of the day, we are a fast growth company. So the name of the game is trying to grow our customer count, grow the top line. But in doing so, you want to do it in a way where you're scaling, you're being efficient. And so that's going to be the continued North Star for me, for the rest of the company, is how do we do this in a manner that is efficient, effective, and keeps our customers satisfied, keeps our employees engaged, energized, passionate, and that is ultimately the goal for us in the next 12 months and beyond.
Eugene Wong, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your time.
Hello, everyone. Jack here. Hope you've been enjoying our recent episodes of CFO Thought Leader. Please know that I don't take for granted this opportunity to serve you. Your time is valuable, and of course, so is the time of our CFO guests. I'll admit to you, on certain weeks, I will pinch myself and say, hey, I get to do this for a living. I speak to all these impressive leaders. Undoubtedly, there are more aggressive interviewers out there, some who leave no stone unturned. But our swim lane is for finance leaders only. And those finance leaders have a unique style of leadership, one that is rooted in the burden of trust. In light of this, finance leaders must take great care not to forfeit this trust as they step into the role of being a more expressive leader. And that is what CFO Thought Leader is really about. That's why I try to remind myself week in, week out, how fortunate I am. Still, I need your help. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Email me your comments at jack@cfothoughtleader.com. And please visit cfothoughtleader.com. You'll find a listener survey right on the nav bar. As always, thank you for listening.